Hey, welcome to YouTube Model Builders Live. Who's Big Bill talking to this evening? Today is January 9, 2019. I want to introduce our special guest tonight, Steve Atwell from Midwest Model Railroad and Hobby Shop that he owns. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, Bill. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm glad that you can make it. Steve is a fellow New Yorker. He actually is a fellow New Yorker, because whenever we get together and talk, he just gripes about the city and the subway and everything. So he's an official New Yorker, and he actually says coffee and stuff like that, you know. But he's with us. He splits time between here and his home and doing Midwest Model hobbies. So, Steve, what have you been up to lately? How is Midwest Models Hobby Shop coming along?
It's great. We had a really great 2018. And as a result of that, some new and interesting things are happening in 2019. We've already brought on more staff to help get packages out on time, making sure to keep our commitment to getting packages out within a day, and keep our prices incredibly low. So everyone wears a lot of hats, but we do everything we can to keep our costs to a bare minimum. I make sure your guys' costs is to a bare minimum.
I think that's great. Yeah. Creative Rails, Ben, he asks, with an increase of available highly detailed locomotives, have you found a decrease in sales of super detailed locomotive parts?
No. People, HO scale, details west, that it still flies off the shelf. We order that often and restock that often. People like scale trains and people like Intermountain that are producing some great detailed locomotives. They want you to believe that that's the biggest part of the market, but I can tell you that it is not the biggest part of the market. We all have this, we all want the super detailed, we all want this, we all want that, but that's not what our sales show that consumers are buying.
But anyway, tonight's special guest, who's Big Bill talking to, is Ralph Renzetti. Now, Ralph, I got to tell you, every time I turn on YouTube now, I see you with Steve Brown, the regular guy, on his Saturday morning track talk thing. You and Ron Marsh over there. And I turn on this thing, and in the after hours, sometimes I come on, and there you are, dispensing your infinite knowledge and wisdom on weathering and all modeling and railroad together. What? There's an explosion of Ralph Renzetti.
Just trying to share it.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. But first and foremost, how you doing, Ralph? How is everything?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
First and foremost, let me ask you, how did the Mudfather icon come up? What is that?
When I first started coming into YouTube and sharing my talent or whatever I have, somebody every time I came in, who was it? Dwight would say, "Oh, here comes the Italian stallion," or whatever, that sort of thing. And then somebody said, "No, it's the Godfather." And they said, "No, wait a minute, the Mudfather, his weathering, the Mudfather." So I got it from YouTube Model Builders.
Well, good. I'm glad we gave you that moniker. I'm glad that we got that. We've been a big fan of yours, for quite a while, even before you appeared on the YouTube Model Builders. And me and you had a chance a year ago coming this weekend. Oh, excuse me, I got something in my eye. A year ago this weekend, me and you met up at Amherst.
Amherst, yeah.
And I thought you'd be like a really short guy, but you're not. You're kind of tall.
Almost 6 foot. I used to be 6 foot when I was younger.
Yeah.
I'm shrinking now. Some people say they don't pilot that high, but hey.
That's the same thing they said. We're gonna have a good conversation, I can tell. But anyway, with that, let us get back. Tonight we have a special guest on our show tonight, who's Big Bill talking to, and I happen to get this from our good friend Wilma. In our last conversation, when Wilmer was on our show with us, he said, "You got to check out this guy, Ben Mooney. You got to check out this guy, Benny Mooney." That's my best imitation of Wilmer. It's not bad. He's not bad. So I kind of looked him up. I looked on his thing, and I saw Creative Rails, and it was really good. So here is our good friend Ben Mooney from Canada, and the author and content maker of Creative Rails. How are you, Ben?
Good, Bill. Thanks. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. It was our pleasure.
Yeah.
Actually, we had somebody else who was more important than you, but he couldn't show up, so we went with you. You were Plan B. Well, actually, you were Plan C, but I didn't want to. Anyway, it was great. Now, it's our honor to have you on. Anybody who makes good content and is, kind of like, enthused in the hobby, like you, and your videos absolutely convey that. So, we just wanted to have you on. Indian Head Valley Railroad woman says, we got to work on your not bad, Big Bill. Yes, you're right. You're right, Wilma, we do. So in our pre-show discussion, we kind of found out that you model in HO.
Yes.
And what is the railroad? You want to be the prototypical, but is it a made up railroad, or is it a railroad that you're basing it on?
So it's based on a prototype, but I call it loose prototype. And an example right off the hop is the tracks. So I'm using code 83, but in reality, if I wanted to be super prototypical, I should be using even like a code 50, because on those lines, they had such old stick rail on there. They were really limited to what they could run. Like the largest steam engines I could run were lightweight Pacifics. And that was literally because of the small rail and the light gauge bridges. But I'm using code 83. And the reason for that is because some of my old steam engines, I'm using a lot of old Mahanos, and I've got some old Varneys that I'm custom building boilers and putting them on. So the flanges on those old steam engines can barely handle the code 83 going through the switches and stuff. So that's just why I call it loose prototypical, because it is prototypical, but I'm bending a few of the rules.
That's all right. It's your railroad. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm what? I'm live? Okay, hold on. Oh, we're live. Hey, welcome everybody to the YouTube Model Builders. Who's Big Bill talking to tonight? Welcome to the greatest city in the world, New York City. We're broadcasting live out of Staten Island, New York. Today is the 27th of February. We're already at the end of February. Can you believe this? Coming to the end of February, going into March. I got a big announcement at the end of this show, and I'm going to wait till then. I'm learning from watching you guys on your other channels, Steve Brown and Ron Trains and Things, and all you guys. Now I'm going to save it to the end, not to the beginning. So we got a big announcement coming up, and I want to share it. But tonight I just want to introduce a good and an old friend of YouTube Model Builders who's been with us. Really, it's Brian Burk. Welcome, Brian Burk.
Thank you, Bill.
And Brian does the Landsberg and Great Western Railroad. It's an HO scale railroad. The reason why I'm excited about having Brian. Brian, you were with us really from the conception towards the middle of when we were like really into doing things, and you kind of like got on. Right.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the first live shows I was on with Mike, Modern Man Mike, back then.
Right.
And then kind of got back into it in the middle, and here I am now, at this point. So.
Right. Well, the chronological, I'm sort of like Brian's chronological historian, if you will, when it comes to he had a layout in the basement that he had done, and he was just getting into YouTube video taping. And then the next thing we see is Brian in his house. He's going to build a room. He has to build a room, and he's going to put a railroad in there, small railroad. And Tell us about that endeavor from the basement up to the room.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah, well, we for whatever reason we seem to move a lot. We've been in, I think, 4 houses in about the last 10 years, 10, 12 years, all within about 10 miles of one another. But when I first got back into railroading, I guess it was, I don't know, 2007, 2008, sometime there. I decided I'd build a layout in my garage, and it was just a little 4x6 layout that I had seen in Model Railroader, and I built it on casters because it was in the garage, so I could pull it out, to work on it in the middle of the garage. And when I was done, I could push it back. And my wife had a small car, so she could pull the front end of her car underneath my layout. So it worked out well because, it didn't interfere with her parking. So we moved from that house, and I brought the layout along, and it was in the garage at the new house. And it was,
if you don't, just one, I think we're kind of skipping. You kind of like went from you kind of started the videotaping in the basement, correct?
No, that was actually a garage very first.
Right, in the garage. That's what I meant to say. You started taping and videotaping in the garage, and then were you given the space upstairs, or you had an open, like, what was, like a loft?
Yeah, it was like a bonus room above the garage. So it was about the size of a 2-car garage, just a wide open room up there.
Right.
And I kept moaning and complaining enough about the heat and cold in the garage that, my wife said, well, why don't you, build a spot up here? And I thought, I can do that. And I think the room was around 10 by 14, I believe, was about the size of the room. So the garage layout got disassembled. I was able to use some of the bench work and stuff to, start the one up in the new room. And it was an around the walls layout. Again, another Model Railroad place. And so I, and I thought at that point, we had downsized into our retirement home. I'll use air quotes, retirement home. And, we're never going to move again. So I'm going to go all out, build this room. So I built the layout not to come apart because I didn't need it to come apart. I remember
that. I just to interject here, I just want to flesh it out a little bit, because that's when I started. I started watching your videos when you were transitioning from the garage to upstairs. And are those videos still on your channel?
They are, yeah. And I've got the original ones, from way back when up through now. They're all out there.
Now, if you get a chance to, if you guys out there in YouTube land get a chance, you should watch these. And simply based on the fact of that, when Brian goes up and he shows you this room that he just acquired, he brings you step by step, very methodically. He tells you exactly how this is going to pan out. He shows you where the wall is going to be built. He's going to put a door, frame the door. There was a little kitchenette, if I remember correctly.
Right.
There was a little kitchenette.
And
that you had the grandchildren's, play stuff in one side where they could still come in, and you built it, and you walked us through this whole, at each build as the walls were going up and everything, and then everything was done. And you were doing some really interesting stuff, like you were actually bringing real rock and putting it on the layout, and saying, hey, I'm going to use this because this was really interesting. I like the texture and I like the way it looks. And I was getting engrossed, and then I'm sure others that were subscribing to it. And then one day Brian says, okay, I'm moving. And like I can say for myself that collectively I was like, oh, wow, what a bummer, man. I mean, I'm glad that you were moving and everything, but you got this whole thing, and the whole lead up to it was, oh, this is this is our retirement. Like you said, air quotes, this is our retirement. So we're going to just stay here, and that's it. This is going to be my layout, and I'm going to come up here and chill, and then we're moving.
Yeah.
So now take us on to the second move.
Yeah. So the reason we moved, anyway, is my mother-in-law is elderly, and she was kind of getting in poor health. So my wife and I decided, maybe she needs to come live with us. So the house we were in, our retirement home, wasn't big enough. So we moved into a larger house, sold my mother-in-law's house, sold our house. We combined all of our stuff, moved into one big place. And the good news was at the new house, it had a 3-car garage. So I got an entire garage bay for the layout. So I had to dismantle the one that was in the room anyway, just tore it all apart. I saved, a little bit of track and some turnouts and such, but that was about it. I did bring the rocks along that I used. So I still have the rocks. They'll maybe on this layout someday. But anyway, started building the layout in the garage, had a new track plan, which I think we're going to look at here in a few minutes. And I was to the point, and I think you had me on a show then.
We had you on the show when you were in the process of rebuilding it and showing us the curved peninsula and all that.
Right. So I had it up. I had all the track down. I had it running. I could run trains, and I was about to put scenery on it. And I found out we were moving again. So
and again, that's where yours truly got like, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And then I was like, I wrote you an email saying like, what are you doing? You're killing me.
Yeah. Well, see,
like, my happiness depended upon your layout.
Yeah. And, so the real reason for all this stuff was I knew I couldn't get back on the show unless I had a new layout. So I kept moving all the time.
There you go.
But no, but seriously.
A funny side story to this is when Brian was going to come on in the second house, his mother-in-law was living with them, and he told his mother-in-law that he was going to be on YouTube video, YouTube model builders. And she was wondering where the communication truck was going to park itself in the.
Yeah, sure. In her mind, she was envisioning this satellite truck, like ESPN pulling up in the back of the house. And she said, you know that we're not allowed to have commercial vehicles parked, in the back of the house. And I said, well, yeah, but what's that got? And that was in her mind. We're going to have this huge television truck with, a guy and a camera and everything. But
yeah. IMRO. Eric Hall asked, is this who I think it is, aka Budget Model Railroading, and he did all the cool work on the ceiling, etc., etc.?
That's it.
That's him.
Yeah, I had a couple of different series. The first one was Model Railroading on a Budget when I started way back when originally, and then the second one where I built the room, I just had it, my HO scale railroad because I had no name for it at that point. And so now it's Landsberg and Great Western. So same person, different three or four series of videos. But yeah, that's me.
Right on the dollar.
That's it. That's the one.
Just so that before you go any further, just let me take a minute here because in the beginning of the show, we were running our intro. And a lot of you guys out there took it that was me interviewing all these guys. And I just wanted to let you know that was not the case. And it wasn't done on purpose to fool you. But I do want to answer one or two questions here. Container Man 68 asked, because he saw the thing with Steve in his new storefront, just so you know, Midwest Model Hobby Shop has opened up their new store as of last week, I believe. And I don't know about in-front parking. Container Man 68. You'd have to find out from Steve, but not yet. But he is up and running, and he's still taking internet orders for that. So, just wanted to let you guys know all that. We didn't have Steve. Lee Blockers here. Hey, Lee, how are you, everybody? And just hello to everybody who's joined. Almar, I haven't seen Almar in a long time. How are you, Al? And Ralph Renzetti's in the Midwest Model Railroad. Yes. Did I pronounce it wrong, Eric? I'm sorry. Anyway, Brian, I do apologize for that.
Yeah, no, not a problem. But yeah, so then I found out we were moving again. So I figured, well, I built this layout to come apart because fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, that kind of thing. But anyway, I thought, well, I'll build it in modules and I'll be able to take it apart and we'll move it and just put it back together. Well, I guess, I'm a little bit like you, Bill, and when I'm into it and I'm going along and I just want to get it done. I want to get it done to run trains. So I had these real nice modules connected and I forgot and I ran the masonite and the foam across the joints without cutting them. And, I didn't, once it was up, I thought, well, heck, we're never going to move again, so it shouldn't be a problem. But it was, so I had to do a little sawing, in places to get it apart. But it's up in the garage now, and I don't know. I may move 3 or 4 more times. I don't know, but I'm trying to get it back in shape. Is where we are right now.
All right, but is it adhering to the same plan, or have you since taking it down basically learned from your, saying, hey, I could have tweaked it a little bit better than that?
Yeah, the big thing I ran into in the house where I initially built it was when I built the peninsula. I built it to plan, but the radius on both it's a double mainline track, right. So I've got 2 main lines on it, and the radius of both of those main lines was too small on that peninsula. So unfortunately, the way the garage was configured, I had no way to get the peninsula out of the center of the layout to redo it. So I just put an extension on it to make it bigger. And it was, it wasn't very good. It didn't work out very well.
Right.
So what I've been doing now, just this past week, is I took that entire end of the peninsula off, took it outside, redid it, recut the masonite and recut the foam. And so now it's right. And I'm at the process of putting it back together now.
Ron Marsh of Ron's Trains and Things. He wants to know what your actual channel name is.
Yeah, it's the Landsberg and Great Western.
Landsberg and Great Western.
Yeah, Landsberg and Great Western.
Says, you were my first fan crush. Then you went away and I had to find a replacement, so I started to fan crush Ron of Ron's Trains and Things. Look at that. Look at that. Your first fanboy crush there.
I forgive him.
Yeah. It happened. It happened. Ron's blushing, he says. Blushing. But hey, so is the fickle world of YouTube model building.
That's right. Here today.
So you had to reconfigure the peninsula. Isn't the peninsula a pain?
Yeah, it is. I thought it would be nice because obviously it gives you a much longer run, continuous run.
Right.
But it does have those issues. You got to get onto it, you got to get around it, you got to get off of it.
Right.
So that's and I, you've had that same issue with yours. If it's not perfect, it doesn't work.
Right. Exactly right. I was telling Brian that I'm in the process. I was telling Brian before we went on air that I just got the peninsula, the tracks hooked up to the other side where we're sitting now, complete around, and I can't believe how much of it, when you do it right, it comes out beautiful. I've been running, no glitches, no derailments, and it's the best. But it's tedious, and you got to pay attention to the minute details.
Yeah. So this is my second opportunity to do it right the first time. So. Hopefully this will come out. Hopefully it'll come out right.
Yeah, but, I hear you.
I did luck out a bit with this space that I have. It's we have a full basement in this house, and this is where I am right now. And behind me is there's a tandem garage in the basement, so it's 2 bays, but one in front of another. Okay. So the room is I think it's like 13 by 35 is the size of the room. So the layout is it's 11 by 21. So I've got some space either side, and I've got a lot of space at the end now. So what I've decided to do is on one side of it where I have the extra width, I've decided to put a lumber yard kind of down in the corner. So I'll build, like another tabletop, and come off the side of the layout just into the lumber yard. And so I've got all of those Walther's lumberyard buildings, the planing shed and the lumberyard and the outbuilding. So, I've got a nice big area that I can put all that in. And yeah, you want to bring the layout picture up there?
Eric, take it easy. We'll see you on the rebound. Eric just got kidnapped by his wife to watch The Masked Singer. I don't know what that is, but
yeah, I think tonight's the finale. But yeah, so if you see the layout here, the way it's configured right now in the garage, towards the left end is from there to the left. There's probably another 12 feet of space to the garage door on that end of the layout, and the right end of the layout is up against the wall. But so where the extension is going with the lumberyard is down where the Landsberg and Great Western yellow block is. So it's going to be about probably about halfway down that yard from left to right. So right above where it says Western, from there to the end, I'm going to put in the lumberyard. And it'll be, I don't know what that is, probably 8 feet, 8 by 2 maybe.
huh?
So it's so I'm going to have to build another table and put it up next to that. But this is a general look and feel of how the layout was built. It's not exactly like this, but as far as the main lines and everything, and the yard at the bottom, that's all there.
It's a continuous running layout. Loop,
Yeah,
right?
it's continuous running, 2 main lines, and then lots of switching
Yeah,
there.
I can
So
see that.
the other thing I'm going to do is in the upper left corner where it shows the tunnel. There isn't really a tunnel there, but it's funny. There was a guy up the street from us who was having a garage sale, and so my wife and I walked up there, and I see this sign on these boxes that says train stuff. So immediately, I'm in there, and he had a few things that he was selling, but one of the things he had was a 4x8 table, L girder bench work that he had built. And since he was moving, he wasn't going to get to use it. So I bought that from him. And what I'm going to do with it is put it at the upper left corner where that gray area is, that tunnel.
Right.
Off of the layout onto that 4x8 and do one of two things: either put a really big yard over there or maybe some industrial switching. So I've gotten a couple suggestions from my subscribers on the channel that maybe I should do industrial switching over there. So anyway, it's going to be a lot more real estate, than what is showing here. So I'm kind of looking forward to starting that build.
Ralph Renzetti wants to know, is this all one level?
Yes, it's all one level.
Okay.
Yeah, the plan actually has a staging yard built underneath this yard at the bottom. I don't know if you can see it in the lower left corner. There's a green circle right there, and it says "from lower staging."
Oh, yes.
So the plan actually has a staging yard below this main yard here, and then it comes up in the upper right corner off of staging where it says "from lower staging."
Right.
So I have not built that yet, but it could be built.
Oh, okay. And Sparky says that I love the big yard, real fan of that style.
Yeah, it was, and it worked real well, for the 2 months that I had it running. The yard was nice.
What kind of track are you using?
I'm using Code 100 Atlas, and then Pico turnouts.
Oh, Pico turnouts?
Right.
Wow. Okay.
So, and they're all, I don't have any switch motors or anything on it yet. So everything's manually right now, manually thrown.
Are you eventually looking to get to have them electronically moved?
Yeah, I don't know. I like the, obviously the convenience of that. So I don't know. We'll cross that bridge maybe later once I get all the other stuff done and get it back up and running again.
True. Very true. Now, this continuous running. Now, are you gonna implement operations in this? Excuse me. Are you gonna implement operations in this?
Yeah, I think I might. I looked at JMRI a little bit, not necessarily to run the layout by that, but it does have some operations capabilities. Where you can set your cars out at different places, and you can have different locomotives, and then you can actually print off some, I don't know, they're like switch puzzles, I guess, where you can go around and build a train, and you can pick cars up and drop cars off and such. So I may take a look at that.
Sparky wants to know, what is the spot in the center? I see what he's talking about. The red green spots. Is that a parking lot?
Yeah, that's actually an intermodal yard right there. And so the red and green spots were trailers that are placed in the yard right now, containers that are placed in the yard.
Okay.
And they're parking spots for the trailers.
Now, is there going to be a scenic divider on that peninsula as well?
There's one that is in there. I didn't get to that point, but I could do a scenic divider down there. It's a black line. It's a little bit hard to see, but there is one.
No, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah.
My suggestion, and for whatever it's worth, is I would do a scenic divider in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, only because when people come into the layout room, I know with mine, they focus on what they see as soon as they come in, right. and they get like, oh yeah, hey, oh yeah, you got a layout, that's nice. And then as you come around, then that's the wow factor, right. Then they say, oh, there's more, wow, and it also breaks up the line of vision. You're not looking straight across to the other side of your layout where things are going on. It's sort of like you divided the kingdom up. Ralph Ronzetti says, when you enter the peninsula from where you enter the peninsula from top or bottom, if you go to the opposite side, and then the same from the other directions, you'll have a lot of real estate to play with, an interesting diamond. Do you enter the layout from the top of the peninsula?
Yeah, and on the left side there.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, that's a bridge right now. It's not in there, so I can just walk through it. But it's built for a duck under the bridge.
Yeah, that looks really. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of track. I haven't put all the track on the lower side of the peninsula there, where the intermodal yard is. I don't have all of that track in there. It looked a little bit busy, when I kind of drew it out. So I don't know. I now that I have this chance to do it over again, maybe I'll change that up a bit. But the peninsula, if you can tell from, I don't know how well the grid lines are showing up there, but it was, I think, right about 52 inches from side to side diameter there. And so, as far as the biggest radius was, about 26, I guess, 25 or so. And on the outside main, and on the inside main, it was down around 21, 22. So I've increased the diameter of the peninsula to 60 inches now.
Okay.
So it gives
Ralph
me a lot.
Ralph Ronzetti says he was talking about the right side down of the peninsula. Yeah, you're right. He does have a lot of real estate.
Right. Yeah, and that where that grain bin is right there, where it says Rhodes Grain, that table, it was not actually built that way, so it's a little bit narrower at that spot. It was if you see the distance between that far lower right corner, there's like 1.5 feet, maybe 1.75 feet in there. I couldn't get in there. Nor, I had to turn sideways and kind of, if I wanted to get into
okay.
So, I'm a little bit too large to get into that spot. So I had to take off a little bit of that real estate that's on the plan, just so I could get into the corner.
Okay. Sparky wants to know the total track length is 442 feet and 4 inches. Is that just the main line or total track?
And it's probably everything, I think, because the main line, again, the layout left to right is 21 feet and it's like 11 feet top to bottom. So I think that's all track laid down, not just the main lines.
Mm-hmm. This is a lot. This is and the Landsberg and Great Western. What is it? Is it after? Is it a fantasy railroad or something that was?
Yeah, it's just fictional. And where it came from, at the very top of the layout, it says City of Landsberg up there. The guy that drew the plan up, just included that. I'm not sure where he got the name from, but so then. He drew the plan, City of Landsberg's up there, and I didn't have a name, so I thought, well, it's Landsberg and something. A lot of the locomotives that I have are Western railroads, like the Rio Grande and the Burlington Northern BNSF. So I figured, well, Great Western. Let's just,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's totally fictional. It's not anywhere other than in my head. It doesn't exist anywhere else.
All right. That's where the best empires come from. Who knows? Right. Today the basement, tomorrow the world. He wants to. Sparky 107 wants to know: did you design the layout?
No, I had a friend. And you guys may know him, John Prescott.
Yes, John. Yes.
Yeah. Back a few years ago, John wanted to get into the layout design business. So I said, well, I'm going to need one. So why don't you design one for me? And I told him what I wanted, what industries I already had. I had some grain, I had helium or propane rather. And, I told him, here's what I have and you can put it on there. Just do what you want. And I told him I did want a peninsula. So this is what he came up with.
All right. So, and how many revisions did you have with this?
I think about 7 revisions. The one other revision that was kind of major was the end of the peninsula there at the left side of the layout was originally 1.5 feet longer. And I had the same problem about not being able to get around the peninsula between that and the bridge. So I had him shorten it about 1.5 feet there. So. But that, other than that, the revisions were mainly just kind of rearranging the track and, accounting for the minimum radius, kind of make that as big as we could get it. So that's mainly what the revisions were.
The gentleman that did this was John Prescott, Container Man 68. The track planner is William Baronic.
Right.
He's the one that designed South Brooklyn,
right,
and a few others out there. But John Prescott designed this one.
Yeah.
So it's nice. I like it. We have other photographs of the layout.
Yeah, kind of. I'd sent a few along just about the rebuilding of the peninsula and a tool that I used to kind of redraw the radius. So. This here is out in my driveway. This is the new, I call it the saucer section of the Enterprise,
right.
Out there. So I took the old peninsula that I had where I put the extension on it and I laid it down and then just drew around it to get it the same width. So, and that's about 60 inches, left to right there. So that was the start of the foam. It's got foam and there's a piece of masonite under that I cut all at once. But and I think the next one is the peninsula as it was before. So you can see kind of where it had that masonite just tacked around the outside.
Right.
So, it didn't work very well. So that's what it looked like, before I started to redo it. I think the next picture is with everything removed from the peninsula. So there's not a lot of bench work in there. And then go ahead and put that next one up there too. So this is the masonite base now. So we're looking if you remember the track plan, we would be standing at the left end of the peninsula, looking back towards the, the other side of the layout. Yeah, so that's.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that's just the masonite now is in there, kind of rough. It's not cut down yet.
Right. Were you able to salvage any of the track, the flex track?
Yeah, I have a lot of the flex track. It's back. If you can see that bridge in the background there, I have all the track is stacked back there. So I was able to get most of it, all of the turnouts, where I didn't have those glued down at all, but I was able to salvage all that.
That's a big chunk of money.
Yeah. If
you can save all that.
Yeah. And then, go ahead and throw up the next one there. So what I was doing here was on the left side of this straight edge, I had to meet the track that was already on the back side of the peninsula. So I'm just trying to figure out, well, where do I want to draw this line here, so I can come up here and meet where the new radius is going to be. So that's just kind of laying out the straight line that I had to cut off that little triangle piece there. So you can go ahead and throw that next one up there, Johnny. So here it's all cut. So it's tapered back down. It joins the old section. You can see back there where the cork is.
Right.
And so I think, and that's basically just everything cut down now. And then I think you can throw that next shot up there. And this is I was talking about drawing those lines. You can see I've got the radius, the curve in there. And then, so this is where it's going to come off the curve and then go straight down and join the other line.
Now, this is going to be all on foam, masonite, and then foam on top?
Foam on top, and then covered with, scenery and cork, obviously, where I need roadbed.
Oh.
And we're back to it. Yep, that's it. So, yeah, no, that's good. We can take that down. But one thing that I have this tool that I use to draw the radius. I don't know if you can see this or not. It's called a trammel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term.
Yes,
but
that's what I use.
Yeah, and it's really neat. It's made out of 3 yardsticks joined together here at the 1-inch line down here at the bottom. And the way it works is the bottom and the top yardstick you can place on wherever you're trying to draw a radius. Let's say you're trying to draw a 24-inch radius. You can put the back of the trammel here at the center of the radius, and then you can go out 24 inches on each one of these legs, and you can place them where you want that radius to go.
That's correct.
The center piece here has holes drilled in it, so you can put a pen in here. I've got them starting at 22 inches, going the whole way out to 35.
Right.
And you just put your pen in there, and then what I have, I'll try and do this without knocking my computer off the table, but on foam it works really well because I've got holes drilled in these arms, and I just have a nail that I stick into the foam, and it holds these two edges so that you can draw your radius without pulling everything loose.
That is correct.
And it works really well. So, and it's cheap to build. Yardsticks you can get for free at a home center, and I think Derek Glass is the guy that put me onto this. He was the first one I saw that had actually used one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
So
he was.
It's nice because with the measurements on the two sides, the center of your radius doesn't even have to be on a table. It can be hanging out in the middle of an aisleway, but where your radius is supposed to end since it's measured. So it works really well.
I have there's a kid in the neighborhood who's he goes to architectural school, and he has seen the layout. So when I was doing the redoing the peninsula, I had to trammel the same thing. Yeah. He came up one day and I was showing him what I was doing, and I showed him the trammel and what I was about to do. And he was like, "Oh, I got something that will work with that trammel." And he came back with these tools. I don't know what they were. You screwed them onto the trammel, and it made the perfect radius.
Yeah.
I was like, The kid was good. He's like 19, 20 years old. He said, "We got to take these fascia boards down, Mr. Graham." I was like, "Okay." And then I was afraid I'd have to take out the scenic divider, but he's no, we can work around that. It's important to know people that know what they're doing, and especially
that's right. Always work with people who are smarter than you are. That's what I always say.
Oh yeah. If my motto, if I'm the smartest man in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I'm in, definitely.
Yeah. So one other thing that I've decided to go with is I've got 4 grandsons that live close by, and so the 3 middle ones are, they're kind of excited about the trains. When am I going to get back together? They've been waiting for 2 years now for me to get these trains together. But obviously they're all going to want to run a train at the same time, and throttles are expensive, right? So what I did is I use a Prodigy Advanced Squared DCC system is what I have, and there's a Wi-Fi module that you can buy for that system that just plugs into one of the throttle connections, and you can download an app and put it on. I've had a couple of old iPhone 4s, so I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway, there's a throttle on here now.
Right.
So free download of the software. And for me, I think you remember this, Bill. I don't like sound, right? In my locomotives. Right. You remember that discussion we had?
Yes.
So it's forward, backward, and light. That's all I need. On, off, and the light, forward and backward. So, and it's got the free version has obviously less features than the one you have to pay for. But it has, you can select your cab number here on the screen. You can add a roster of locomotives if you want, and then also if you have your engines consisted, you can add here too, and it works pretty well. It's really simple. They say so advanced it's simple. There's like 4 steps. You plug the Wi-Fi module in, you download the software, you connect to that Wi-Fi network, and then you just start picking trains, and it works. So hopefully it'll be easier for them to use. The iPhone 4 is pretty small, so they can handle that. And if they drop it, I don't care because it was free anyway. So.
Right. There you go. That's the thing. Free, as the commercial says. Yeah. Free. Let's see. Questions? Containerman68 says, Mike Pfeiffer said he used an old camera tripod and 1 yardstick. Place the yardstick with the nail in the hole of the camera mount, then marked out your radius. Holes drilled in the yardstick. Yes.
Yep, that'll work.
That will work. And going back to the track planner, let me give you a little heads up about Mr. Baranek and the track planner. Mr. Baranek has a website called www.thetrackplanner.com. And he has everything up there, and it says contact him. You can contact him. It doesn't cost any money to ask him a question. He'd be more than happy to give you any information. I mean, obviously, if you come back to him more than, I would say, whatever the allotted amount of times, more than 5 times, on the 6th time, he's got to charge you.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to be cognizant of that. His time is important, but he's willing to help, Mr. Baranek, and I've known him to be very generous with his time, and he wants everybody to have a good layout, and to have a functioning layout. So, there's no problem reaching out to him. If it turns out that you want to get a quote, he's pretty reasonable, and he'll work with you. So I would suggest you go check him out. He's a pretty admirable, nice guy. And Sparky says, MO8 Junction. And Lloyd, our good friend Lloyd, said, Sparky, just go to his website and you'll get the information you need. And he says, and Sparky replies, I have a couple of emails from him. I was more asking for the chat. Oh, okay. Yeah. But thank you. Yes, you're right. He's a very accommodating man. He'd be more than happy to share any of his ideas. If you are if you're building your own layout, and this goes for Containerman 68, if you're in the process of building it, I know you said that you were going to do the SCOM or 3D planning or anything and go with EasyRail, or just go back to pen and pencil, and you get stuck, I can say with certainty that you can approach him and say, hey, This is what I'm doing. And mention my name. Mention my name. Big Bill. You know, if he slams the phone down, then you know that you shouldn't have mentioned my name. But if he starts cursing at you, then you should have known you shouldn't have mentioned my name. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. You know, that's my. Yeah, he'll chat with you on the website. We'll stand behind what he does. Yeah, and then C&L lines, the track planner will stand behind what he does for you. Container Man 68, I can do that, Big Bill. Yeah, it's, hey, man. You know, just you know, I think we're a community of givers here. I think that the model railroading community, I've been involved in other hobbies and other endeavors, and you know, the only thing I can assert of the closest the community I can assert is the baseball community. I coached baseball for almost 30 years, from youth league to high school league and stuff. And there's a community within that community and of baseball people, and the same thing here in model railroading. I can tell you that you know, I can tell you that a lot of people are willing to give away a lot of information and a lot of ideas and stuff like this in this community. I think it's a very giving community. You know, so I think if you don't ask, you won't know. And if you don't know, then you have to ask. It's as simple as that. And what's the worst, you know? People tell me all the time, well, you can't ask this guy to be on the show. Why not? Well, because he's, you know, he's a big name in the hobby. There's no harm in asking him. I mean, I got you, Brian. You're the biggest name in the hobby. Yeah. And I was going to say, you know? So, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You know, what's that? Oh, 52. Oh, my director is yelling at me. You know, I'm surprised, Brian, that this show didn't win an Oscar. I'm surprised we weren't even nominated for best.
I know, but you know, a lot of times it's all politics, though, right? In the Oscars, right?
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
So, you know, if you and I haven't paid our dues yet, you know, so
maybe we have. Maybe we have, Brian. We just quiet about it. Just quiet about it. Anyway, Sparky says, sometimes it's just nice to see someone else's ideas. We all get plans stuck in our head, and sometimes it's hard to branch away from it. Yeah, you're right, Doc. Sometimes you got to step outside, take a, you know, smoke a cigar and have a glass of beer and just say, hey, maybe I'm approaching this the wrong way.
Yeah, or maybe I need to find another hobby. You know, I've thought about that too. Because you get frustrated at times, you know, and sometimes you just have to walk away from it and not let it beat you, because it can do that. Yeah.
Tim Shoby, I hope I'm pronouncing Shoby. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That name, that last your name. See, I can't even speak. Timothy. I got a brother named Tim. He hates it when I call him Timmy. In N scale, what radius curves is good for a double stacked card?
We'll need an N-scaler to answer that question. I don't know.
Yeah, any of you N-scalers out there? Because Brian and myself are HO scale guys, and I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I guess. Yeah, I guess it'd probably be half the radius of an HO, right? Because it's about half the scale.
The Bob's 19. Tim, 19. The E is silent on his last name. Sparky, 107, 107 and capital letters. He's yelling at us. When people do capital letters on a text, that means they're yelling.
That's right.
So he says, there's no other hobby. LOL. How can you say that with a straight face? Well, you know, he's talking about frustration. Never can't find another hobby. I get way too much money and equipment invested. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. It's funny, you know, you mentioned you got money invested in equipment. At Christmas time, I put up a lot of those porcelain houses, you know, upstairs, Christmas village type stuff. And my wife asked me this past year, she said, why don't you bring some of your trains up, you know, and put them around here? And I said, well, it's the wrong scale. You know, you can't use HO with those buildings because they're, you know, like S gauge or maybe O scale. And I said, if you want, I'd be happy to like sell everything I have and buy a whole new scale and start over just to go with the village, you know. she wasn't real thrilled with that idea either. So
yeah, it's you know it's I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Sometimes I try to sneak things by my wife. She is like she just knows. How do they know that?
yeah,
They know.
I don't know, but they do. It's you can't sneak anything past them. That's for sure.
No, you can't. You can't. Anyway, so you think this will be well, we can't really say definitively if this is the last move.
Heck, I thought that 3 houses ago that it was the last move, I would sure hope it is, because it's going to be I'm going to spend a lot of time getting this rebuilt. And I wonder sometimes, should I just, not try to salvage anything, just kind of thrown it away and start it over. But it was hard because I had money and time, invested in it. And I thought, well, if there's any way I can get it back together and get it running, that's what I want to do rather than starting over. So 2 schools of thought: either you do or you don't,
Yeah. No, listen, the only thing on the South Brooklyn Railroad, yeah, all the switches are floating. They're not glued, right, other than the ballast that's in place on them. But other than that, they're not soldered to the main line. They're not soldered to any of the flex track. They're free floating. As far as the track itself, I've glued that down, and I'm not, and I've learned, like when I tore up the peninsula, I learned that you can't, as much as you think you can by putting the hot towels down in the hot water, and it's too time consuming, and it's cheaper to buy 10 pieces of flex track, and then start from there. Because what I do is I just cut them away with the Dremel tool on the cutting wheel. I cut them about maybe 6-7 inches away from the switches if they're attached, and then take a scraper and pull them all up, and stuff like that. And so you lose the flex track as much as you try to. Then you spend all that time trying to clean it to put it back down again, and you're like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to throw away money, because you know how much.
And I agree with you. I agree. Listen, this is the every time, like if we're out and about, right? The guy across the street, he was his daughter graduated. She went out of middle school and she went into high school, right? Yeah. So him and his wife, like, we have to give her a teenage bedroom. A room has to be updated. So they took the old bed out and they took all the old furniture out, right? The dresses, and they threw them out. So they were these. Hold on, I got them right here. My wife said I was nuts, but there was all these pieces of laminated wood. I don't know what they were for. They came out of some of the dresses, but I took them.
Right?
They wood, sturdy, rock solid. Yeah. So I took them. My wife says, "What are you going to do with those?" I said, "I have no idea."
But I'll use them sometime.
Well, you know what happened? When I'm laying the curved track here, right? I got a little bit of a dip, and I'm trying to I'm cutting up cereal boxes, and I'm putting the strips of cardboard in there. And I said, "Wait a minute, I have this stuff." So I took it downstairs to the workshop downstairs in the basement, and I cut them. Yeah, I got it. And I just dropped it. But I cut them into strips, and I put them underneath to level them. And I was so proud of myself. You should have seen me. I was like this little. I cut them into these little strips to fit. I measured them to the width of the track. So now they fit right under the track, and they bring the track level. And I was so proud. I was like this little puppy that went back a ball after she threw it. I said, "Look what I did with that." She goes, "And what about all the other stuff you got?" I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "I'm thinking on that stuff. But I'm telling you, sometimes, you know, you see things and you say to yourself, I could use that someplace. You know?
Yeah, we never threw anything away. That's for sure.
When I used to work in the transit authority, I got these things. See these weights? These are cut off from metal rails.
Yeah.
Switch boxes. They were throwing them out. They were in a big pile. I asked the supervisor, can I have them? He said, yeah, take them. I took a couple of hundred of them. They're still down in the basement. My wife went to kick them the other day and she broke a toe. You know, what are you going to do? But I have to say, for one thing, Brian, that when I saw your video come back up, when I was, you know, I have you subscribe, I have the like button, and I push the bell. So that one time when the bell went off and it came up on my computer, and I saw Lansbury and Great Western, HO Scale Railroad, I was like, oh, what is this? What is this? It's coming up in a loop again, you know? And then I saw the video and I was like, I think I either emailed you right away.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's like my best friend in the whole world just came back to the neighborhood.
He's alive. Back from the dead, like the Phoenix.
Yeah, I was like, oh, my best buddy in the whole world is here. Here he is. Hey, Brian, we got to get you back on the show.
Yes, I had about a year hiatus, I think, between videos. And
yeah, you were out for a while. I mean, when I saw you back, I was like, oh, this is great. We got to get you back on to do the middle part of it and everything.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely. I think I've put maybe 3 videos up since November, December of last year. So I'm going to try and do them a little bit more frequently now. So.
And Brian, and for you guys out there, Brian is a very good scratch builder. You built that barn scene with the building,
right?
And a few other things you did for the layout. So it's a pretty good scratch builder.
Yeah, I haven't done too much of that, but I kind of like to get into it. You know, I do have a lot of kits that I've acquired. When I wasn't working on the layout, I was buying stuff. You know, so it was. I was in the hobby that way, even if I wasn't.
Yeah, sure.
So,
yeah. Sparky 107 wants to know. So, Brian, do you have any bench work done? Track down? How far are you with the new one?
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever's the bench work from the layout as it was in the other house was all salvaged, so it's all up, and the track that survived the move that was still on the layout is there. And then, so I've got to go back and, put new track in where I couldn't salvage it. But it's not operational, but it does have some track on it. I'm going to say maybe 30% of the track is on it now.
Good, cool.
So, because I want to redo all the curves as well.
Yeah,
like you did. I want to do that.
Yeah. Brian's channel is called Landsberg and Great Western. That's it, right? No Western Railroad. It's Landsberg and Great Western, right?
Yeah, it may be Railroad. I think it was Landsberg and Great Western Railroad.
All right, so put that in your YouTube model links. Subscribe to him, hit the bell, and hit the like button for him, because that's what we're doing here. YouTube Model Builders is promoting his videos, and he's going to be doing more videos. That's what Ron Bryce has said. Yeah, we need to see more vids, Brian. And definitely, we want to see them, and we definitely want to have you back on when
I move again, right?
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want.
I don't either.
I'm telling you, I don't either. I get so emotional when I find I cry at Verizon commercials. So can you imagine how I felt when you moved? I was definitely so taken, like, oh no, not again.
Not again. Yeah.
What's going on with this guy? But anyway. But Brian, thanks so much for being on with us. I greatly appreciate it, and great to have you back into the hobby, man. Really, it really is.
I appreciate it, Bill. I keep up with everyone, even when I was not doing anything. So still enjoyed watching the videos and seeing that everybody that I like to watch was still there and active. So I appreciate you having me on.
Oh no, it's
always a pleasure to be on with you.
It's absolutely our pleasure, and it is our honor. It really is. You're like really one of the nice guys. Before anybody leaves, I got a special announcement. I've been saying this all the time, so guys, don't leave yet. I got a special announcement. But hold on just for a minute, Brian. Before we sign off, I just want to point out to you guys that here at YouTube Model Builders, we've been working behind the scenes and on a lot of things. And if you haven't seen the promo video yet, we're coming up tomorrow, Friday, the 28th of February. We're going to be launching a new video series at 3 p.m. March 1st? What's tomorrow? Oh, isn't there 31 days in February? Nope, 27. Okay. Tomorrow, March 1st. See, I got confused. That's why I need John in my life. We've been working on a new project, and we've been working in collaboration with Steve Brown from It's My Railroad, Ron Marsh, Ron's Trains and Things, Steve Atwell from Midwest Model Hobby, and Ralph Renzetti, aka the Mudfather, and Andy Crawford, and John is the director of it. What we've been doing is we're putting out a series of I guess you would say commentaries. It's called Model Railroad Views, and in there we're going to have such a discussion with these gentlemen in the panel. It's going to be pre-recorded. It will not be live. It will be a pre-recorded, and then it will be released, such as like what they do on Train Masters TV. It will be released. That was the decision we made to do that. So it will be released, and we have three or six shows of this one. The topic is the hobby dying, and on the guest panel is Steve Atwell and Steve Brown, along with Andy, who moderated it, and I believe Ralph Renzetti is in it. Am I correct, John? I think so. So, you know, they're going to have that on, but it's going to premiere tomorrow. It's going to be released from us tomorrow, March 1st, at 3 p.m. So look for it. We hope to be doing more of these videos on certain topics, such as what role does the NMRA play in the hobby of model railroading? Where is it going? Where it has been, and where has it been? And you know, and stuff like that. Plus other hobby questions. If you guys out there have anything that you'd like us to discuss, please feel free to let us know. You can email myself or email us at youtubemodelbuilders.com. Also, in the near future, we're going to be making some changes to the YouTube Model Builders as the physicality of it, of how we present it to you, and how it's going to come across. We got some new things in work and new stuff coming out. So we're trying to stay ahead of the bell-shaped curve here so that we can bring you great content, great shows, and you know, just keep it all for the community, all for you guys out there. And it's still free. Free is for me. That's our motto. If it's free, it's for me. End of story. So please, tomorrow, Friday, tomorrow, today's what's today? I've been sick. I've been sick all week. I've been sick. This is my first day out of the house, out of bed. I shaved. You should have saw I had a big beard. I shaved and everything. Tomorrow is Thursday, March 1st at 3 p.m. Okay, let me start again. Tomorrow is let me pull my calendar up. I'm going to get to that. All right, tomorrow is the 28th. That's Thursday. On Friday, March 1st, is when we're going to release the new video at 3 p.m. Tomorrow, Johnny's Train Talk Show will be on. If you're in the neighborhood and you want to stop by for a cup of coffee and shoot the breeze with the boys, he's on tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know, Ron. Wow. Ron says, wow. Yeah, you're right. I've been sick, guys. I have. Seriously, honestly, I've been sick. So I'm kind of just getting out, pumped with medication and an upper respiratory thing going on. It was terrible. Brian Double, is this what happens when you retire? Yes. Yes, absolutely. When you retire, I lose all the track of time. I don't know. Every day is Friday and the morning is Saturday. What can I tell you? You know. But again, I just want to reiterate that again. I want to make sure you guys got that. On Friday, March 1st at 3 p.m., we're releasing a video, and it's titled Model Railroad Views. And the topic is the hobby dying? It's going to be 3 weeks, and it's going to be on that topic, and we've divided into 3 or 6 shows. So it will be released, every Friday, John? Right. Okay, so this one is the hobby dying is 3 weeks. And then the next show will be what role does the NMRA play in model railroading? And that will run for 3 weeks. So Friday, March 1st, it will premiere the show, Model Railroad Views. So please tune into it. And again, Mr. Burk, thank you so very, very much for being a part of this show, for being a part of the community, and for sharing your hobby with us, with the rest of the modelers.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and just happy to be on with you. I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you.
And tomorrow night, Thursday, the 28th of February, Johnny's Train Talk show will be on. So stop by if you're in the neighborhood. Sit around the old belly pot stove with John and some of his people that come in, the guests, and talk about model railroading in the community itself. If you're working on a project or you're doing something that you want to be part of, or you have a question, that's the place to go. Johnny's Train Talk. Okay? So thank you guys for watching. Without you, we'd be talking a dead ass. So thank you again. Take care. God bless. And we'll definitely see you guys on the radio. Bye-bye.